Welcome. It is Monday. I am Julie with Balance Life with Julie, regenerative health practitioner and holistic nutritionist. I like to go live every Monday to answer your health questions and just to share some knowledge about how to help your body to regenerate and heal itself. So, if you're not familiar with what regenerative health is really focused on addressing the root causes of chronic illness and dis-ease within the body and utilizing nutrition, herbs. In my practice, I also utilize biohacks and other sort of key things like regulating your nervous system and really focusing on finding all the ways to optimize and support your body so that your body can heal itself. Remember that no one outside of you can heal you, only your body heals itself when it is supported correctly. And unfortunately, we live in a culture and an environment that is really focused on making people as my friend Dr. Alan Goldhammer says in True North, is really making people fat, sick, and miserable. And so what I focus on doing is sharing information that will help you to optimize your body, optimize your health, and get on the path to true healing and vitality. So this week's questions, I have a few questions to answer. The first question on the list is somebody asked, just because I think they know that I'm very predominantly fruit-based, is fruit too much sugar? So there's a couple different things to consider when it comes to this particular question. First of all, if we look at the anatomy of human beings, our mouth structure, our teeth, our GI system, it most closely resembles frugivores. So those are primates that are predominantly fruit-based. And we also have enzymes in our mouth that are focused on actually breaking down fruit. And so when we eat a diet that is, highly processed, really focused on meat and dairy, and not on foods that our body is naturally accustomed to eating, it's going to create a lot of imbalance. The other thing to consider is that having an apple is quite different than having a piece of cheesecake or a candy bar or a muffin, right? There's a world of difference in how your body deals with those types of things. The thing to also focus to keep in mind is that when you're eating a whole fruit, you're also consuming fiber with that fruit. And that fiber slows down the release of the sugar, of the fructose, so that your body is not going to respond or react to it in the same way. The other thing to also understand is that food is energy and information, and certain foods have different roles to play within the body. So in terms of fruit is very, very nourishing. It is very detoxifying and cleansing. And if you know the work of, say, Dr. Robert Morse, who I've listened to a lot of his videos. I have his book. I'm very well versed in his particular way of working with the human body. And Dr. Robert Morse is a big proponent of fruit, using fruit as a detoxifier within the body. Now, green superfoods can also help the body to detoxify, as can certain greens in general. But like celery comes to mind. But it is also really, really important to understand that fruit is the fastest digested. It actually has everything that our body needs in terms of it gets broken down into glucose. Our body utilizes glucose. Glucose plus oxygen at the cell level makes ATP, adenosine triphosphate. And that is truly what our body utilizes to make energy. All plant foods have essential amino acids. So fruit also has protein. It has essential amino acids. And so in many ways, fruit is actually a complete food for us as human beings. And if you're, depending on what type of fruits you're eating, you're actually also getting some fat with that fruit. So avocados, for example. Now, When it also depends on what you're trying to do, right? So when I have somebody who comes to me and they're dealing with a chronic health condition and we need to get their health back on track, we're going to be utilizing fruits and superfoods to aid in detoxification as well as nourishment. So that, and I tend to use green superfoods for nourishment and to support the adrenals, but we're utilizing the fruits for a very specific purpose, which is to aid in detoxification for the body. And it is really, really important to detoxify, chemicals, heavy metals, parasites out of the body, get all that junk out of the system. And then we can focus on using veggies as builders and using nuts and seeds and things like that as well to help the body to rebuild and regenerate itself. But getting the garbage out of the way first, right? So I know that's a long answer to the is fruit too much sugar for the body? Now, the other thing I want to and I'm going to be experimenting with this in the new year, is that I'm very familiar with the work of Brian Clements from Hippocrates Health Institute, and he's very, very anti-fruit. And the reason that he's so anti-fruit is that he feels very strongly that because so much of the food system has been tampered with and so much of the foods have been tampered with, that the fruits that we're eating these days are kind of artificially made in, I don't think artificial is quite the word, but have been manipulated in such a way that they contain more sugar than, say, the fruits of like 200 years ago, which I think he's probably factually correct on that point. But on that, like, both Brian Clements and both Dr. Robert Morris have had a tremendous amount of success helping people with chronic illness reverse that chronic illness. So I'm actually going to be testing this on a protocol on myself in the new year. And once I have a better feeling on this point, because I can tell you there was a point almost 2 years ago where I did a period of time where I was doing fruits and herbs and that was it. And that was the best I ever felt in my body. Like, hands down, it really was. So I'm going to be trying out a new protocol in January because I tend to do new protocols at the start of the year. So I am right now formulating a new protocol for myself, which will look at testing this hypothesis. And then I'm going to see how I feel. And then based on how I feel, I will report back to you. But I can't really say much beyond that because I haven't gotten into that experiment yet. The second question that I got, I'm just checking the time. The second question I got for this week was, how long does it take to address parasites? So this is a layered question. Number one, it always depends on the state of the health of the person. So let's say somebody is reasonably healthy. They don't have any obvious signs of health issues, but they've heard that it's really, really important to parasite cleanse. And so they want to start parasite cleansing. Generally, with most people, what I like to do is, number one, we transition your diet. We get away from the foods that are promoting parasites within the body that parasites love. Parasites love processed foods. They love breads and pastas, and meat and dairy feeds them, as does fish. So we have to take a little bit of a break from those types of quote unquote foods and not feed the parasites, and also not bring in parasites. Like, for example, raw dairy, there's this whole raw dairy trend right now. That is the perfect way to bring parasites into your body, right? It really is. So if you want to get parasites, definitely do sushi, do raw dairy. You're going to end up with parasites. Now, once the parasites are in your system, what they tend to do is they hijack your nervous system. They can affect your thinking. They can take over certain organs and glands and tissues. And when they do that, and you start thinking about, well, I should do a parasite cleanse, they're going to actually talk you out of it because they've hijacked your thinking, and they do not want you to get rid of them. They have such a nice, comfy, cozy home environment. Why would they want to leave? Right? They don't. So really pay attention to your symptoms. So if you've got brain fog, fatigue, joint pain, You're dealing with an autoimmune condition, you're dealing with cancer. These are all signs of parasites within the system. If you do not recall ever in your life doing a parasite cleanse, and you've at any point in time eaten meat, dairy, fish, eggs, processed sugar, breads, pasta, chances are you've got parasites somewhere in your system. They're hanging out, they're hiding out, and they're going to work pretty hard to stay put. That's why oftentimes someone will come to me and they're like, "Well, I did a stool test and there were no parasites." I'm like, "Do you think the parasites are going to leave your body voluntarily?" No. They are not going to show up on a stool test most of the time. So you have to really read your body and read the symptoms. And I asked this of the one of the companies that I work with. I use their herbs for parasite cleansing. I asked the president of the company. We were on a call. I said, "What are your thoughts on like who do you think has parasites?" He's like, "Take out your take out your hand, take your pulse. If you're alive, you have parasites. Everyone has parasites. Now, if you have dogs or cats, chances are, I think anyone who has dogs or cats, you have to do a parasite cleanse probably 3 times a year. And whenever you do a parasite cleanse, you need to also do a parasite cleanse for your animals. And in fact, the entire household should do a parasite cleanse at the same time, because otherwise you're just going to pass it between you guys. So first thing, you got to transition your diet. Second thing, start addressing, making sure that your elimination pathways are open. That means you can sweat, you can poop, and you're able, like everything's functioning the way Mother Nature designed. So that means you're going to the bathroom, number 2, at least 2 to 3 times a day. And then the third thing that I always like people to do is I like you to start heavy metal cleansing, because a lot of parasites thrive on heavy metals. So we want to take away their food. We want to get those heavy metals out of your system. Once you're done that, then we can start doing parasite cleansing. It usually takes about 3 weeks to really properly prepare for a parasite cleanse. And then what I like to start with is a parasite cleanse where you do 10 days on, 14 days off, 10 days on, and then we kind of see where you at. Because sometimes parasite cleansing can get very, very emotional. Stuff comes up. The parasites can really mess with your emotions. They can trigger anxiety. They can trigger depression. Those things are not pleasant to experience. I personally have gone through that myself. So once you've done like a full round of parasite cleansing, I like to always ask, like, okay, are you wanting to go deeper, or do we kind of need to hit the pause button? If we hit the pause button, I usually like to put someone on a protocol, which is just more focused on maintenance and keeping up with the good habits. And then when you're ready to dive back in, we go back in. But usually that at that point, we're probably doing a 90-day straight parasite cleanse, where we're doing different types of anti-parasitic herbs every single month. And we're also doing binders. We keep up with the heavy metal cleansing. We keep up with the proper diet. And by that point in time, we've actually released quite a bit, you know? And so then after that, depending on what someone's symptoms are, then we can look at, do we need to do another round, or can we just hit the pause, go into maintenance, and then look at doing something later on in the year? So usually I would say probably doing about 3 parasite cleanses spaced out over the period of a year, and also making sure that you don't slide back into poor habits, dietary habits in between the parasite cleanses. That's also really, really important. And, you know, if you're dealing with mold, if you're dealing with Lyme, or cancer or autoimmune conditions, there are different things and nuances that come in that also have to be addressed. And this is why so many times people are like, well, what type of parasite cleanse should I do? And the reason that I'm vague and I don't give like one answer is that it really does vary from person to person. I've worked with clients who are so sensitive, their system is so sensitive because of whatever they've dealt with. Maybe they were exposed with mold or Lyme or or just some people have a sensitive system. That's just how their body is wired. There's nothing wrong with that. But it also means that we have to go really, really slowly. We can't push. And so I might have them on a heavy metal detox for a little bit longer. I might have them on superfoods a little bit longer, and then we'll kind of do some checking and see if they're ready to dive deeper. So for this reason, for this reason, I have options. If you're unable to work with me one-on-one, then I have a group program called Elevate. And I've actually shifted. We were only meeting twice a month for that program. I've now changed the way that program is laid out so that I have live weekly Q&A once a week where you can come to me with your questions. It's in a group setting. I don't tape the calls, and you can ask your questions. And in Elevate, there's people at different points in the program. There's some people who are just starting out. There's some people who've been in the program for months. It doesn't matter. You just bring your questions, and I answer your questions based on where you're at and make whatever suggestions might be necessary. But I decided that I wanted to offer more support in that program, because sometimes the downside of digital programs is, yes, you've got the videos, you can watch the videos, you can look at the recipes, you can see what the protocols are and get those set up for yourself. But you may need a little extra support. So I created that for you. Also, make sure that you check the captions below, because one of the things that I have done as I've been on my own health journey is I was dealing with hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's. So I had to change my diet. I had to change my lifestyle. I had to get all the toxic chemicals out of my life and really focus on finding the things out there that weren't going to put more chemical toxicity in my body. So as a result, the makeup I wear is completely non-toxic. I wear EMF protection 24/7 because I'm aware of how EMFs disrupt the communication between the cells. I've worked with superfoods now for years and years and years. So if you check the caption below, with all of the different companies that I've been utilizing over the years, I've negotiated discounts for people who follow my pages. And whether you're working with me in one of my groups or whether you're just following my content, you can take advantage of those discounts. And of course, as you watch this video, if you have questions, please pop them into the comments below. And I'll be more than happy to answer the question on next week's live. And of course, if you have any questions outside of that, you can always reach out to me as well. And make sure that you share this video with anyone who could benefit from this information. So thanks so much for being here. I appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of your Mindset Monday, and I will see you on another live. Bye for now.